Hello, Algebra 2 students. It's Miss Barrett. I am unfortunately out sick today. I have a stomach bug, no fun. Literally giving you these notes from my bed. So, here we go. We're going to talk about inverses. These are quick notes. You have the rest of the period to try out the homework, and we'll catch up with everything else tomorrow. An inverse in math is another word for opposite. So sometimes we say the inverse of addition would be subtraction. So it's kind of like the opposite. The inverse actually undoes the operation in math to another operation. So when finding the inverse of a function, it's actually not too bad. All we're going to do here is we're going to switch the x and y values. Sometimes not the values, sometimes we physically switch the letters, and then we solve for the other letter, y. So we switch x and y and solve for y. And that's how you come up with an inverse equation. Now, since x and y are switching places, the domain of the original function is now the range of the inverse. So we also switch the domain and the range because all of the x's and the y's are changing. So the domain of the original function becomes the range of the inverse. Similarly, the domain of the inverse is now the range of the original. So we just switch the domain and the range. Okay, so in terms of notation, okay, we write the inverse of f like this. And you guys, that was literally my alarm clock to wake up and make these notes for you. Anyway, you guys have seen this notation before. It looks like this. So this is actually, I would read this as f inverse of x. A lot of people say f to the -1 of x, but it means to take the inverse. You guys have seen this in geometry. I don't know if you guys remember doing this, but we would take the sine inverse or the cosine inverse or the tangent inverse when we were solving for an angle in geometry. So we've worked with inverses before. I think you've kind of seen that notation before. That's what it means. F -1 of x, which I would now say f inverse of x, is just saying here's the inverse. Very simple way to do this when you're given some ordered pairs. So you literally just switch the x's and the y's. So -2, -5 becomes -5, -2. And we will do these curly braces with these points. And then -1, -3 becomes -3, -1. Then we will have a 0, 0, 1 becomes 1, 0. 1, 8 becomes 8, 1. And 2, 3 becomes 3, 2. Sorry, I didn't fit that in. Okay. Cool. So that's just with some ordered pairs. But now, when we're given an equation, how do we do this? Well, like I said, we are going to switch the letters, x and y, and then we are going to solve for y. So you might be looking at number 1, and you might say, okay, cool, except I don't see a y. Neither do I. That's okay. F of x is like a y. So let's rewrite this in y equals mx plus b form. So there we go, okay? So there's the original. There's the original. Y equals 3x minus 3. So all I do is I switch my x and my y. So this is for the inverse. Okay, so x equals 3y minus 3. And now I'm going to get y by itself. Okay, so we're going to add, oopsies. Sorry, guys. We're going to add over that 3. We got x plus 3 equals 3y. And now to get y totally by itself, we're just going to divide everything here by 3. So divide by 3, divide everything by 3. You can just write this out. Now I always then write the y on the left-hand side, but this is going to be it. Y equals x plus 3 over 3. And here's the thing, guys. The original problem was in function notation, so I need you to finish this in function notation. So the last step is just to replace y with f inverse of x. So your final answer has to look like this. I know that seems picky, and it is, but that's the way it goes. So here's our final answer. Okay, quickly doing another one with you guys. Maybe something like, I'm going to skip number 2. You guys could try that on your own, just because it's another linear one. Don't forget, you can always multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of a fraction. You try that one on your own. You switch your x and your y. Your answer should end up like this. F inverse of x equals negative 8/3 times x minus 11. Okay, so you try that one out on your own. Make sure you get the right answer. I'm going to do number 3 with you. All right, y equals square root of x minus 1 plus 2. So we're going to switch our x and our y. So we have x equals square root of y minus 1 plus 2. And now I need to get y by itself. So let's start by subtracting that 2 over. All right, next step has to be to square both sides. Square both sides. Now I know what you might be thinking. Oh boy, we have to FOIL that. You actually, it's kind of nice for this one. I'm not going to ask you to FOIL it all out. So take a look. X minus 2 quantity squared equals y minus 1. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to FOIL that out. All you got to do is just get y by itself. So add over that 1. And here we go. We have y equals x minus 2 quantity squared plus 1. This is totally acceptable because it's in vertex form, and I didn't specify what form I needed, so you don't need to FOIL that out. Kind of nice. I know this is really fun. We're almost through. I can just feel Colin R. not paying attention. Maybe Colin W. pouring water on him. Almost there, guys. All right. I'm just kidding, my Collins. Just a little funny humor from the sick lady. Okay, number 4. Last one. Oh, I didn't really give you guys a chance to take a little look at this answer. Here it is. And number 4. We are going to switch our x and our y. This isn't my original, though. I'm writing out the original to start. Switch x and y. Okay, I'm going to show less work here, so see if you can follow along. So I get x plus 5 equals 3y minus 2 quantity squared. I am going to square root both sides. Now, a lot of times we would do plus or minus here, but then that would make our answer not a function. I can explain that a little bit more in depth tomorrow. So I'm going to ask you to not, this is one of the only times you're not going to do plus or minus when you actually take the square root while solving an equation. Again, that's just because our answer would result in something that's not a function. Okay, so we're almost there. We're going to add over that 2 and then divide everything by 3. So we have square root of x plus 5, outside plus 2 equals 3y, and finally divide by 3. So we get y equals, which I'm going to go right to f inverse of x equals. All right, square root of x plus 5 plus 2 on the outside, all divided by 3, and that's our answer. Okay. All right. So that's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And I am going to just go over one of the other side. or the next page, so let's go. Okay, multiple ways to do this. I can show you a different, maybe easier way for you tomorrow, but for now, let's just do this. It says find both f of g of x and g of f of x, and if these both equal x, that sounds weird, but I'll show you. Okay, then the functions are inverses of each other. So I'll show you maybe an easier way to do this tomorrow, but this is kind of a new way, and it applies something we learned last week, which is why I want you to try it out. So for number 1, let's find f of g of x. Okay, so g of x is 1/2 x minus 4, so this is f of 1/2 x minus 4. So I'm going to take this and plug it in for x, and what I get is 2 parentheses 1/2 x minus 4 plus 8. Alright, so distribute that 2, and I get x minus 8 plus 8. Combine your x's, they cancel. You get x. Okay, so f of g of x is equal to x. Well, now let's try the other way. G of f of x. Okay, so this time f of x is 2x minus 8. So we're going to do g of 2x minus 8. Oops, not minus 8, plus 8. That would screw up the problem. Okay, so here we go. We have g, which is 1/2 x, so we have 1/2 times 2x plus 8, and then minus 4. Distribute that 1/2, we get x plus 4 minus 4. The 4's cancel, and I also get x. So, conclusion. Since f of g of x equals x, and g of f of x equals x, then f and g are inverses. Easier way, maybe, potentially, I don't know, it depends on what you consider easy, could be just to find the inverse of f of x and see if it is g of x. So anyway, that's the only one I'm going to do so that I can keep this short. The answer, if you want to try number 2, is that it's not. You just don't get x when you do f of g of x. That's all, guys. That's all I really have the energy for anyway. So, miss you, kind of, but I'm pretty sick, so I'm sure you wouldn't want me there. And that's all I got for you. Rest of the period's homework. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully.